6 o'clock news starts right now.
Tonight, we're learning more about how Florida Governor Ron DeSantis flew 50 migrants from San Antonio to Florida and then Massachusetts last month.
Those documents released days ago by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' office and show pictures, video, and text messages surrounding that covert operation.
Alicia Barrera took a closer look at the documents and also tells us how the arrangements were made.
Pictures show 49 migrants, including children, standing in line on September 14th, waiting to board chartered flights out of San Antonio, which records show were quoted for Florida's Department of Transportation that would eventually take them to Martha's Vineyard.
The governor's office in Florida refused to give us information regarding public dollars that Florida taxpayers paid for. And it was only until we had the Freedom of Information Act that we were able to get these documents.
On September 19th, Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar announced the launch of a criminal investigation, adding,
"And I believe that they were preyed upon. Somebody came from out of state, preyed upon these people, lured them with promises of a better life."
However, pictured next to the migrants is an off-duty Bexar County Sheriff's deputy and canine checking the luggage of migrants. His BCSO assigned unit is pictured in the background. Today, BCSO sent this statement to KSAT that reads, quote, "We are aware a deputy was at the scene. Early in the investigation, this deputy came forward with information he witnessed, which corroborated some of the information supplied by many of the migrants. He is considered a cooperating witness in the case and is not suspected of any wrongdoing at this time," end quote. Screenshots of text messages through WhatsApp show conversations between migrants and Perla Huerta, the woman allegedly at the center of the migrant flights. In one text, Perla said, quote, "They will hate me today, but no one would have given you this opportunity," end quote. To which the migrant later responded, quote, "I don't hate you. I know what you were doing," end quote. The public records include 49 signed copies of the official consent to transport by migrants from Peru and Venezuela, dated September 13th, 2022. However, Domingo Garcia, national president of LULAC, says the migrants were deceived.
They felt they were lied to, that they were fraudulently told to get on a jet.
Now, LULAC National is looking at filing a class action lawsuit against Florida Governor DeSantis and the state of Florida. Alicia Barrera, KSAT 12 News.
So we do know a few migrants, who were flown to Martha's Vineyard are suing Florida's governor and also his transportation secretary. The lawsuits filed in federal Boston court allege that they were lured there under false pretenses.
Tonight, Uvalde CISD parents and students are on edge after a threat was reported at the high school there.
Our Lee Waldman is joining us now live outside of the high school. And Lee, parents are telling you that they're really shaken up by this, and we understand why.
Yeah, I spoke to several parents who have students in this district, and they didn't want to talk on camera, but off camera, they tell me that this report is re-traumatizing and puts them right back in that same headspace they were in after the Robb Elementary shooting nearly 5 months ago. One mother I spoke to said she feels like they're starting to get back to normal, but then something like this happens, and they're right back to living in fear again. She has even gone so far to get her kids watches that have GPS tracking and allows them to send her text messages. Another mom hopes that the teen arrested for making the threat on social media is punished to the fullest. On Twitter, Marie Jo Garza's mom, Kimberly, tweeted the statement released by the district and said, quote, "This is exactly why I will not let my son attend UCISD," unquote. The district is not releasing any additional information about the student arrested, but they are encouraging students, staff, and the public to report inappropriate behavior. Now, tonight on the Night Beat, you're going to hear from the CEO of the Ecumenical Center and head of the Uvalde Together Resiliency Center about how an event like this report of a shooting is re-traumatizing to this community just almost 5 months from the Robb Elementary shooting. Live in Uvalde, Lee Waldman, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Lee. Back here closer to home, a San Antonio child psychologist facing charges tonight for indecency with a child by contact. That's according to court records obtained by KSAT. Timothy Kimball was arrested back on August 24th. The arrest affidavit shows police were tipped off by the alleged victim's mother. The mother claims she had strange conversations with Kimball that made her suspicious. According to the arrest affidavit, Kimball once told the victim's mom, quote, if the police went to his work, they would discover things that would put him in jail for life, end quote. SAPD contacted Kimball at work. According to the affidavit, he admitted to recording the victim with hidden cameras and told police he had inappropriate contact with her while giving the girl a back massage. Kimball was released on a $125,000 bond.
Today, a jury decided how long two men would spend in jail for murder. It sentenced Williams Blankenship to 10 years and his stepson Lane Wutan to 22. The jury convicted both men of the 2020 murder of Josh Fowler. Early today, defense attorneys tried to sway jurors to consider a shorter sentencing by adding a sudden passion charge. That charge would come with a 2 to 20-year sentence compared to the 5 to 99 years or life in prison sentence that they were looking at. But the jury rejected that.
Make a decision, answered yes to special issue number 1. Special issue number 1, if you answered yes to it, is 2 to 20.
Both men are eligible for parole after serving half of their sentences.
It has been exactly a week since a judge ordered Bexar County to add dozens more polling locations ahead of the November 8th election. Today, county commissioners met that judge's deadline and approved 302 voting centers. It's less than the 388 polling sites activists had pushed for in a lawsuit against the county. But county commissioners were told both parties agreed on the 302 sites after some of the precincts were found to not have any registered voters in them. Those sites would be available for Election Day.
6 San Antonio police officers have tragically taken their lives in the last 20 months. The Public Safety Committee tackled the spike in deaths during a meeting this morning. Our Garrett Berger tells us what the city and police department are planning to do.
Since 2008, 11 SAPD officers have committed suicide, but 6 of them came in 2021 and 2022. Plus a 7th recent retiree, the department says.
So they fell through these gaps. That's really where I think we need to spend our time, is figuring out how to fill those gaps.
Police Chief William McManus says the department has several services for officer wellness. Though officers worry what could happen if they use them, the chief says the department only temporarily takes their guns and puts them on administrative duty if there's a concern they'll hurt themselves.
If we were told that someone is threatening to hurt themselves or wants to kill themselves, if we don't take the weapon away, then that's a problem.
Still, he acknowledges there's a stigma, which needs to be reduced.
So I think we need to eliminate the term mental health altogether. It's a health and wellness issue, not necessarily just a mental health issue.
Public Safety Committee members had suggestions ranging from outside partnerships to regular check-ins. SAPD has its own committee looking at how to improve services. One idea would be certain trigger calls that would mandate psychological services, like the mass migrant deaths in the trailer this June, or ways for dispatch to automatically switch officers onto low-priority calls after responding to critical ones.
So they're not constantly receiving those high critical calls, one right after the next.
After a survey and discussions with officers, the department hopes to evaluate recommendations in February and March. Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
We now know the name of a man who was hit and killed by a car while trying to cross Highway 151 on Sunday. He has been identified as 38-year-old Pedro Chell. That's according to the Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office. That crash happened near Castroville Road and Old Highway 90 West. San Antonio police say Chell was walking across the highway for an unknown reason when a white Mazda ran over him. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The Bexar County Medical Examiner's Office still working on, now they have provided his identification. The driver did stop and call for help.
New at 6, San Antonio's bioscience industry has gone where not many others have in a very big way. The Texas Research and Technology Foundation has invested $1 billion on San Antonio's east side. Jesse Degollado says what's there now is nothing like it was in the early 1900s.
Trains still pass the building where everything from produce to mink stoles were kept in the old Merchants Ice Storage Facility. More than a century later,
this is the core of San Antonio's Life Science Innovation District.
At CoLabs, home of the Texas Research and Technology Foundation, where much of its focus is the biosector and companies like GenCure.
An extension of BioBridge Global's mission to save and enhance lives through the healing power of human cells and tissues.
The stem cell activity that we have is really a bonus for us.
The foundation CEO, Randy Herrig, says CoLabs is helping its tenants fund and launch what they develop.
And figure out where to make it, how to make it, make it at a price that we can sell it for a profit.
I wanted to hear what longtime residents just up the street from Collabs think of their new neighbor, Myrtle Stout and her mother.
Everybody knows me. All they did call me Mama Brown.
They may not understand what Collabs is, but even so,
it's nice. You know, it takes getting used to.
Never dreaming a company would think of investing $1 billion on the east side.
No, I really didn't. It's about time. It's about time. They doing something over here on the east side.
That $1 billion, says Herrig?
Probably the beginning of what's going to be over here because there's so much opportunity.
Jesse Degollado, KSAT 12 News.
Okay, now we're going to take a live look outside. 70 degrees out there right now.
And what a day, huh? Feeling like fall, crisp air, especially in the morning, baby blue sky, and a lack of any humidity out there. We started off the day in the 50s, 57 officially in town, then a high temperature of 72. And for a change, we're actually below average. And that's below average with full sunshine all day. 10 degrees below average today. Right now, temperatures already starting to slide a little bit from the afternoon high. Helotes just updated to 68. Converse at 70, Divine 71, Bandera 69, and New Braunfels now at 70 degrees. Temperatures falling off pretty efficiently. Good radiational cooling, low humidity, clear sky, and a calming wind. So by 8 o'clock will be 63, 10 o'clock already into the 50s. And I'll break down just how cool it's going to get in your neighborhood by early tomorrow morning. We'll have some 30s, I think, out there in parts of our area. We'll show you where and then when temperatures warm up in just a bit.
All right, Adam, thank you. And coming up, relief coming to the more than 8 million Americans who borrowed money to get an education. How soon you can expect the relief now that the application has made a soft launch.
And holding themselves accountable. That is the goal behind the Bexar County judicial system's latest move when it comes to stopping domestic violence, how they're turning the mirror on themselves to make change.
But before we go, we do want to give you a quick look at what the traffic situation is like outside. This is I-37 at 9th Street near downtown, maybe closer to the east. What you see there is traffic flowing pretty steadily, even considering it's 7-Eleven, except for that left lane right there, which seems to be where traffic is really at a crawl, but not too bad when you look at the other 1, 2, 3, 4 lanes to the right. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Coming up tonight on the Night Beat, 2 shootings a day. That's what San Antonio has seen on average since just this weekend. One of those apparently happening at a car club meetup. And now the victim's family is sharing a message with San Antonio as they mourn their loved one. Plus, KSAT investigates, goes to court. The local doctor who faced a judge for a boarding home with a bad record. What the judge said about the dozens of violations that were uncovered. Those stories and a lot more tonight on the Night Beat.
The Bexar County judicial system will soon be held accountable for its handling of family violence cases. That accountability demanded by county leaders and some of the judges themselves.
As Courtney Friedman explains, the Commissioner's Court just approved a 3-year independent study hoping to reveal both flaws and successes. It's part of Courtney's series, Loving in Fear.
A very clear picture has been painted by domestic violence survivors in a recent city survey. One saying, going through a divorce due to domestic violence in Bexar County is a joke. I lost everything, including my children. Parents saying ordered visitation subjected the children to ongoing abuse until they reached 18. Or the courts give the abuser 50-50 custody without first evaluating the abuser. A broken judicial system that Bexar County commissioners and judges themselves are acknowledging. Commissioner's Court just approved an independent 3-year assessment of the system, costing $750,000. Year 1 is what the Commissioner's Court has funded for $226,000. It'll focus on civil courts, protective orders, children, and divorce. Year 2 will focus on law enforcement and criminal courts, and Year 3 on how the system will implement the strategic plan.
Can conduct interviews, they can do court watching, they're going to walk through the case as if they were a victim or an offender.
150th Civil District Judge Monique Diaz says the national assessment organizations will also talk to victims, many of whom say abusers getting visitation or custody is a huge issue.
Giving them unauthorized access to children without any type of custody orders, supervision, appropriate supports.
Christina Campos says the survivors she serves at Family Violence Prevention Services have to drop protective orders and return to the abuser just to protect the kids. Diaz says the civil and criminal courts have completely different computer systems and need a better way to communicate.
And we're determining custody and visitation arrangements. We need to know that there's a no contact order on the criminal side and communicate with one another.
It's about time. I'm excited. I'm hopeful.
Are you prepared to hear that there may be massive failures in the court system that you are a part of?
Absolutely. We're expecting that.
Courtney Friedman, KSAT 12 News.
All righty. All right. So it's 6:17 right now. We're going to just talk about the weather right now. Let's just talk about how happy a lot of people have been.
Yes.
With just this morning, I opened my door and I went, oh, how lovely.
I feel like I brought it
is.
with us from Ohio. This is the same exact weather we dealt with for an entire week up there. So
Thanks, Tim.
With us.
Did you bring the fall colors too?
Not quite yet. We'll have to wait till November.
Yeah, we don't get much of that around here.
Yeah.
We don't get the fall colors, right? Anyway, yes, very fall-like air in place, and we're feeling it, and you'll especially feel it tomorrow morning. And it's that time of year where we have a really big temperature swing from the morning to the afternoon. So tomorrow morning, jacket weather or hoodie, sweatshirt. You know the drill. But by the afternoon, short sleeves and sunshine. And then we get warmer by this weekend. Of course, we'll see those temperatures on the upswing by this weekend. Actually, take a look at our temperature trend for 7 a.m. in the morning, which is typically when we hit our low temperature of the day. Tomorrow morning, we're expecting 44 here in town, even cooler in some other places. We'll get into that in a moment. By Thursday, we're still in the 40s at 48. But then notice by this weekend, morning temperatures are back in the 60-degree range, back into the 60s. So some changes are on the way. Back to kind of what we're more used to and accustomed to by this upcoming weekend. Looking across the state, by and large, we're in the 60s. Amarillo 61, Midland 62, Houston at 68, Dallas at 63. The core of the cold air, that's up around the Great Lakes, even Chicago at 46 right now, and Cincinnati, Cleveland area right around 40 degrees. You look at temperatures locally, still some low 70s out there, but those numbers will be dropping off pretty quickly. So Hondo right now at 73, but as that sun sets, exactly at 7 p.m. today, temperatures will fall off quickly. Clear sky, calming wind, and dry air, so ideal for radiational cooling. Helotes now at 67 and Gonzales 68. All right, this is what you can expect tomorrow morning. Parts of the hill country into the 30s. Comfort 36, Kerrville about 37. Bandera, Pipe Creek about 38, 39 for the morning temperature. Same with Bernie and Bulverde. Around San Antonio, within 410, about 45 degrees in the morning, so still jacket weather. But you get outside of 410 and 1604 and likely in the lower 40s. Helotes 43, Converse about 41 to start the day tomorrow. So you'll notice that chill at the bus stop in the morning, but by the afternoon and even recess time for many kids, short sleeves at least are okay. We'll be into the 70s. Bernie a high of 73, downtown San Antonio about 75 degrees. And those afternoons will be on the upswing as well. We'll be back in the low 80s by Thursday and then upper 80s this upcoming weekend. 88 degrees the high temperature Saturday and Sunday. One reason temperatures fall off so much at night right now because of the dry air that's in place. You know, the dew point, we often show you and talk about it in terms of the comfort factor, but it's more than just that. We have that crisp air in place. The dew point is kind of a measurement of just how low the temperature could fall at night. And the lower that dew point, the more significantly your temperatures will fall off. But that changes later this week and especially into the weekend. Our dewies are back into the 60s by this weekend. And then you'll notice the stickiness, particularly a bit Sunday and especially into Monday. So with those rising dew points, more moisture in the air means warmer mornings on the way. Clouds are clearing out. We had a nice scattering of clouds overhead, but they're clearing out right now. And remember, it takes a clear sky for temperatures to fall off. The clouds act as a blanket, and the blanket of clouds that's clearing on out of here and moving out of the way. We've had some showers far south of San Antonio this morning. No chance of rain until Monday. Right now, the moisture and even some wintry precip in and around the Great Lakes. And for us, we're actually looking at the tropics in the eastern Pacific that could give us a rain chance. And we'll talk about that more coming up next half hour. 44 in the morning at 7 a.m. By noon, we're at 65. Nothing but sunshine all day long tomorrow, making it up to 74 for the high. And just a 30% chance right now of a few showers by Monday.
Okay, Adam, thank you.
Big weekend on tap, Greg, for the UTSA Roadrunners.
Yeah, because this is not just their homecoming game. This has turned into a rivalry matchup with North Texas after what they were able to do last year and now trying to do the same thing this year. Take over the lead, in fact, against Conference USA in this particular game. And also, the revenge tour continues for UT coming up. When the UTSA Roadrunners host the Mean Green of North Texas this Saturday, it'll be for the lead in Conference USA, even though the Roadrunners sit on top right now with a 5-2 overall record compared to the Mean Green's 4-3. They're both 3-0 in conference play. This will be their 10th meeting overall, with North Texas holding the 5-4 advantage. But in the Alamo Dome, the Roadrunners are 3-1 against North Texas. Even more impressive, the Roadrunners have won 12 of their last 13 home games and are 14-2 in the Dome in the Jeff Traylor era. And to make it even more amazing, this will be UTSA's homecoming game.
We're fired up. We cannot wait for Saturday. I could barely sleep last night thinking about it.
It's electric. You know, it's gonna be a good showdown. You know, hopefully a classic. And you know, we're really excited for the opportunity.
When the Alamo Dome's rocking and we're able to pack some people in there and 2-0's there, no matter what game it is, you know, we appreciate that. So whenever we can have that, gives us a little edge. You know, we appreciate it.
The Roadrunners are hoping their fans show up big time for what has become the rivalry game when they kick off Saturday at 2:30. Texas Longhorns revenge tour continues this Saturday when they travel to Oklahoma State for a little payback. You may remember the Horns were up 17-3 last year and made it 24-13 at one point, only to fail by allowing the Cowboys to score 19 unanswered points in the 32-24 loss. And what made it even worse, it happened in Austin. And after losing to West Virginia, Oklahoma, and Iowa State last year, they've been able to score victories this year and would like the Cowboys to be their next revenge win on the road.
It takes mental intensity, it takes focus, it takes maturity, but it also takes poise and composure on the road, and then playing as one. I think complementary football is really important on the road, and that's something we've been really pushing for and advocating for. I think our guys have done that.
Kickoff between the Longhorns and the Cowboys in Stillwater this Saturday is at 2:30 p.m., and you can see that game live right here on KSAT 12. When the Fighting Texas Aggies travel to South Carolina to face the Gamecocks this week, they will be 3.5-point favorites to win on the road. Both teams are coming off bye weeks, but unlike the Aggies, the Gamecocks had 3 straight wins going into their off week that included a road victory against ranked Kentucky. Now, meantime, the Aggies are trying to regroup after back-to-back losses to Mississippi State and Alabama with a chance to improve to 4-3 overall. Head coach Jimbo Fisher says quarterback Haynes King has recovered from his foot injury by telling us he's going when asked if he was going to be able to play, and then defended his play in the 24-20 loss to Alabama.
Tell you what, now you go back and watch that film. He made a lot of plays. Made a lot of plays against some tough situations, some tough scenarios, and kept us in his legs and things he did, and made a lot of really good things in that game. I mean, a few mistakes here and there, but he still did some great things in that game. And when you really watch the film and why things happened and what went on around him.
Now, when asked if there is a scenario true freshman Connor Wegman could see action in a few series at quarterback against South Carolina, Fisher's short answer was, I don't know, we'll wait and see. You know, a lot of that depends on just how well or how bad King performs Saturday when they kick at 6:30. And it's going to be the Yankees in the ALCS against the Houston Astros. That's after they were able to eliminate Cleveland today, 5-1. That has just gone final after they went to the 9th inning just a short time ago, but that has now gone final, 5-1. The ALCS will begin with the game 1 tomorrow at 6:30 in Houston, and they're having to do a lot of rearranging. I think Elton John concerts has to be moved, all kinds of stuff to get this in.
Heck of a season for the Guardians, considered most people had them finishing last in their division.
That is exactly correct. Great comeback.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you. And we'll be right back with KSAT Q&A after this.
It is time now for our KSAT Q&A. You haven't seen him on KSAT Q&A for a while because he's been traveling.
But now Mayor Ron Nirenberg is back. He joins us now live. Mr. Mayor, thank you for being with us.
Great to see you all.
So we know that you were in Japan meeting with Toyota executives, and I'm just going to ask what everybody wants to know. Does that mean that San Antonio is getting more jobs?
San Antonio seems as if we are in the process of getting more jobs in the manufacturing community almost on a monthly basis. I am pleased that we were able to meet with over 100 businesses, many of whom work within the manufacturing and cyber sectors. Okayasu is a manufacturing company who will now be moving operations to San Antonio and creating great jobs. So we did close that deal. We met with Toyota executives who, of course, employ thousands of San Antonians and continue to do incredible things here with new lines and some of their major products that they deliver to global communities. There were several different meetings with regard to Japanese business federations. We had a meeting with the ambassador as well to Japan. So our work, our relationship, our partnership, culturally and economically with Japan has never been stronger. And of course, Japan remains one of the most important strategic alliances that the United States has in the Eastern Pacific and certainly within the Eastern Hemisphere. So it was good to be over there. They continue to be important employers here in our community and put food on the table for so many families that we're grateful for.
Mayor, switching gears now, it has been a while since we've had an opportunity to talk to you, so we wanted to talk about a recent situation here. A San Antonio police officer lost his job after body cam video showed him shooting a 17-year-old at a McDonald's parking lot. That teen, Eric Cantu, still fighting for his life tonight. Have you had any opportunity to talk to his family, and can you comment on how you believe the police department has handled that situation so far?
Sure. I have not spoken to the family. Obviously, our hearts and prayers are with them. And you know what has happened now and has been reported on, obviously, has been that the officer did not operate within the standards that we expect from our police department and our officers. He was immediately terminated. I am glad that that termination is final, and of course that in accordance with these types of situations, the issue itself has been referred to the DA. And there is an investigation underway. So we will be compliant with that process. And again, this is not something we ever want to see. But in the case of the termination, I do believe that the police chief conducted that process and terminated the officer with good justification. And I'm glad he did that quickly.
Now, earlier in the newscast, we mentioned the alarming number of local officers who have taken their lives in the last 20 months, 6 suicides. The Public Safety Committee met today to discuss solutions. Do you have any? What's your take on this?
Well, we know that first responders have always had some of the most stressful jobs that are in the public sector. That has certainly gotten more intense over the last few years. And unfortunately, we've seen a number of police officers, not only in San Antonio, but across the country, take their own lives. The well-being and mental health of our first responder community, the officers themselves, their family members, the trauma that they experience is something that we take very seriously. Our city management, as well as the police officers union and the rank and file, along with their command staff, are all engaged in a work plan to continue to improve on the resources and services provided to the first responders in their communities. Everything from, mental wellness check-ins to chaplain services. We want to make sure that we offer those resources and that handout for help whenever that's needed. And so we're going to continue to work through that. I know that the city management met recently with the police officers union to go through a work plan that has several milestones up into through spring of this year to improve on the resources that we do have. But that's something that's going to be top of mind for all of us here. And as you just mentioned, it's going to be part of the public safety dialogue as well in the committee.
Okay, now final question here, because we just have about 30 seconds. So we know what you just said, but have we been able to identify or get to the root of the problem? I understand the response, lots of mental health services. Yeah. Okay, fine. But have we been able to determine why? Why are so many police officers going this route?
Well, I can't speak to that on any specific case, and those would require individual conversations. But what I will tell you is this, that there's a tremendous amount of trauma, collective trauma within every community of the United States, but in particular among the first responders who have to deal with a lot of situations that nobody would want to. So I can imagine that this is a symptomatic of a lot of trauma that people have experienced, and we have to deal with that. we have to work with them in any way we can to ensure that there's mental wellness and check-ins and ensuring that they have folks that they can reach out to when things are not going well. So we want to make those resources available. But to speak to any individual cause, we'd have to, those would be individual cases that I'm not privy to.
Definitely a difficult issue, one we will continue to watch you and the police administration deal with. Mayor Ron Nirenberg, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. And we'll be right back after this.
The federal government has launched a new program aimed at relieving student debt for millions of Americans.
Ivan Rodriguez is in Washington to break down who qualifies, how to apply, and what this means for you.
President Joe Biden touting the formal launch of the application process for the administration's student loan forgiveness plan on Monday.
If you have federal student debt, please visit studentaid.gov.
Borrowers with federally held student loans are now eligible to apply for up to $10,000 in debt cancellation if they make less than $125,000 per year, and as much as $20,000 if they were also Pell Grant recipients. Relief is also available for graduate students and parents who borrowed Federal Plus loans if the borrower meets the income requirements.
In total, more than 40 million Americans can stand to benefit from this relief.
The Department of Education says it will email at least 8 million borrowers who will be considered for debt relief but don't need to apply because the department already has their income information. This phase of the administration's debt cancellation program is building onto a pandemic-era pause in federal student loan repayment that is set to restart in January.
The Department of Education has told us that if you apply for debt cancellation by the middle of November, you'll be able to get your student debt canceled before payments restart.
Advocates say this is an important move toward easing the financial burden of higher education on Americans.
We look at this application as the first step towards not only unleashing the full potential of borrowers and students and parents, but of the entire economy.
Borrowers looking for relief have until December 31st, 2023 to apply. In Washington, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
Hollywood trailblazer Anna Mae Wong is going to be the first Asian American on U.S. currency. Over the decades, she rose to fame and became the first Asian American film star in Hollywood. Wong talked herself into her first movie role when she was only 14 years old. Her first leading role was in The Toll of the Sea in 1922 when she was just 17. She died in 1961.
The Wong Quarter will be the 5th release this year as part of the American Women Quarters program. It calls for 5 new coins each year from 2022 through 2025. The Girl Scouts of America has received its largest donation ever from a single individual. Mackenzie Scott, the ex-wife of Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, gifted the organization $84.5 million. Wow. Scott and the national chapter will choose 29 local councils to receive those funds.
And you're wondering, okay, what are they going to do with all that cash? Well, the money's going to be used in part as membership grants in communities that have, quote, been underengaged. And they're also going to be used to develop programs to help prepare girls for leadership. The group said that there's going to be an expanded focus on career readiness and also mental wellness. So, bravo. McDonald's and Krispy Kreme are testing out a sweet team up for Adam. The two companies announced that McDonald's is going to start selling Krispy Kreme donuts at 9 locations across the Louisville, Kentucky area. It's part of a small test for the companies. The select restaurants are going to carry 3 of Krispy Kreme's most popular pastries, including, of course, the OG glazed donut.
Now, the sweet treats will be delivered fresh every day to the locations, and customers will be able to buy them all day while supplies last. That begins on October 26th. I'm guessing this is not a part of their healthier menu options.
No, I don't like that shot with the cheese right there on the donut. It just doesn't. I mean,
somebody
I love
will come up with an off-menu item where they turn the
donut into a bun.
Yes,
for a burger.
Mm-hmm. You watch.
Or for the Egg McMuffin.
Heart attack special.
Oh, well, you want the warm coffee, warm donut tomorrow morning. You'll need the jacket as well, but by the afternoon, short sleeves are just fine. Let's take a look at our temperature trend for morning lows. And usually this is around 7 a.m. in the morning. around sunrise when we hit that low temperature. Tomorrow morning, 44 in San Antonio, even cooler in some outlying areas. Thursday morning, 48. Friday, we moderate up into the 50s. And then by this weekend, morning temperatures are back to reality in the 60s. And the average low, by the way, is 60 degrees. All right, so let's take a look at our overall trend, the overall pattern across the U.S. You see those blue colors on the map? That indicates the cooler air. That's where we have a big dip, big trough in the upper level flow, big low pressure system in the upper levels spinning over the Great Lakes. That's pulling that cooler air southward and even here into Texas. Meanwhile, a different story on the West Coast, big bump or ridge in the upper level flow, giving them warmer temperatures. They've got some 70s and 80s out west, but then we're talking sub-freezing temperatures underneath this trough in parts of the eastern U.S. later on tonight. Around here right now, mixture of some 70s and especially 60s. Kerrville 66 along with Gonzales. Hondo, though, at 73. Pleasanton right now at 70 degrees. Cotulla 71. This is what we're expecting tomorrow morning. Widespread 40s. But that means when you get into the hill country, we'll have some 30s. Kerrville about 37. Fredericksburg 35 at 7 a.m. tomorrow. In and around San Antonio about 44. Del Rio and Eagle Pass about 49. Converse though 41. Elmendorf 43 and Castroville 43. So feeling the chill and that real fall-like crisp air tomorrow morning. If you've been waiting to wear that special comfy hoodie sweatshirt, tomorrow morning is definitely your time. By the afternoon, though, nothing but sunshine, and I think just short sleeves will do. We'll be into the 70s. Leon Springs 73, along with Lavernia. Downtown San Antonio 75, and Timberwood Park 73, the high temperature. So we go from the mid-70s tomorrow into the lower 80s for highs on Thursday. And then Friday through this weekend, we're well into the 80s, even flirting with 90 degrees by Saturday and Sunday. So very fall-like for a few more days. And then things take a bit of a turn, and you'll even notice the humidity increasing this weekend as well. Here's the big picture, and we talked about the big trough in the upper level flow. That's over the Great Lakes. That's where things get stirred up, and that's where we have the showers and even some areas of snow. Meanwhile, along the western U.S., the big bump in the upper level flow, so Big Blue H, that's centered over basically Utah and parts of Idaho and western Montana. What we're watching for our next moisture source is really this little area of disturbed weather south of Mexico. This is in the Pacific, and this is likely to turn into our next tropical depression for the eastern Pacific, maybe even tropical storm Roslyn. Now, the path of this is likely to just go right along the Mexican coastline and then turn inland, and then the leftovers and remnants of it could even give us some moisture by the early part of next week, as that trajectory would put the leftovers somewhere in south or central Texas. So that gives us a slight chance of a few showers combined with a weak cold front by Monday, maybe even Tuesday time frame. A lot of uncertainty. It's really up in the air. If you think about it, that system hasn't even come together yet. It doesn't even have a center of circulation. It's hard to predict something that hasn't even formed yet. We can't even measure it. But right now, just some isolated showers possible for the early part of next week. So something to watch, and we'll keep you updated on it. Here's the KSAT 12-hour forecast. Tomorrow morning, clear sky, but cool at the bus stop at 44 at 7 a.m. But then by 10 a.m., we're already up to 57. And by noon, we're at 65 degrees. By the afternoon, 4 o'clock, we hit 74. Notice not much of a wind out there, just light and variable throughout the day, probably no more than 6-7 miles per hour. Humidity returns a bit for the weekend, a bit breezy, upper 80s, and then a weak cold front on Monday, but not a big temperature drop.
Thank you, Adam.
In case you missed it, coming up next.
And it's Tuesday, October 18th.
We begin with breaking news from the city's northeast side, where crews are responding to a fire.
Now, firefighters tell us what was really concerning for them during this fire was that there's a little gust of wind right now that we have going on. They were afraid that this fire would spread to the neighboring businesses. Right now, they say about 4 out of those 18 businesses have some sort of smoke and water damage. But at this point, they're still trying to figure out what started this fire.
While shelves are fuller than they used to be, many families with new babies in the U.S. are still having a lot of trouble finding baby formula. Data shows just 18% of powdered formula was out of stock the first week of October, compared to about 30% in July. But that is still higher than before the nationwide recall of baby formula back in February.
The Treasury Department Department will assess how extreme weather increases insurance rates. Officials say they are taking a hard look at how climate-related disasters are driving up rates. The Federal Insurance Office is requesting zip code level data from insurance companies regarding policies and prices. This is the first time the department has used its authority to ask insurance companies for that type of data. Insurance companies are regulated at a state level, but this data could ultimately be used to determine whether changes are needed in the insurance market.
The California bakery is blending two popular things, bread and Star Wars. Their latest creation is called Han Solo, based on Han Solo's frozen in carbonite in The Empire Strikes Back. It's made entirely out of bread and part of an entry for a contest. I mean, that bread cannot be fresh. It's got to be like super hard.
Dust off the jacket tomorrow morning. We're talking low to mid 40s for most of us. Floresville, even Nixon Smiley, about 43. Comfort as cool as 36. Around Canyon Lake, 40. Downtown will be 45. Then by the afternoon, we're into the 70s.
Okay, we'll take it. Thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you right back here on The Night Beat.
Till then, have a good evening.